Hello E39 Source, my name is Brandon. This is my 2003 carbon black E39 M5 and it's time to give you guys an update. So it's actually been about a year since I provided you guys an update on my M5 for the E39 Source channel. There's a few changes in the car, but of course, rather large garage. I bought a house with a pretty big garage here, as you guys can see. We're not going to talk about the garage in this video, but I am going to give you a walk around, an update, thorough review of the changes that have happened to my car since you guys have seen it last. All right guys, so as I mentioned, this is an 03 carbon black metallic, all original body panels, never been painted or anything like that. So have a lot of stone chips, and other than that, the car is in very good shape. One of the updates that I had on the exterior, probably since you've seen it last, is I got the dents removed, and I'm not sure, those of you who maybe are following the car a little bit more closely, you will notice that there are no dents. And I had the guy take out, I think, 2 or 3 large ones on this side. And there was, again, 2 or 3 large door dings, and one of them being like right there, right where you get in, and even non-car people would see it. So it really sucked, made the car look just crappy, you know, it just doesn't look right. So the body is super straight, looks really good. And of course, I had to do a paint correction to this beautiful paint. It looks really, really nice. No clear coat failure that I can see or anything like that. So between, you know, paint correction and, you know, having wax and sealant on it at all times, and of course garaged here, the car just looks so good, and it is rather clean. I washed it. It is a little dusty, but another thing on the outside that you guys will notice is I went back to the stock grills, the stock chrome grills. I put new ones in there, just a nice little refresh, nice and clean. I went back and forth between the black ones and then the chrome and black ones, but I just feel like you guys were right. The factory grills are the best on this car. So one of the things on the front of the car that I really don't like, of course, is this cracked panel that was there since I bought it, and the original piece under here, the pork chops, that was cracked as well, which I had replaced. You can see someone clearly smacked into something. So I replaced the pork chops on both sides, courtesy of KD. So really nice that I wasn't paying 300 bucks a pop or whatever that happened to be. Not sure if I provided this in the last update, but the rotors and brake pads I replaced on the front. I feel like that might have been in the last update. I also did 4 tires all around, so all 4 new tires. They are the Michelin AS3s, stock, factory size. And of course, I keep the wheels as clean as possible. Having new tires on a car, it's just one of those little things that makes a big difference. So I replaced the front rotors and pads. I'm not sure if I mentioned that in my other video. I went with the Hawk HPS pads, and I also went with the StopTech drilled rotors. And to be honest with you guys, I probably would have done slotted, and you know, looking back now, my M3 has drilled, so I just tried to copy the M3. So I'm not tracking the car, of course, and I'm not really driving it that hard, but in retrospect, slotted probably makes a little bit more sense, kind of in general. And I will say the combo is pretty good, but I do have instances of the brakes squeaking, so it really does get annoying, but the dust is significantly lower with that setup. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, I actually had a frozen caliper, driver's side frozen caliper on this car, which was horrible to deal with because the car is almost like undrivable. Thanks to Ryan, he just sent me one and I just swapped it on. You know, you can rebuild them, but at the time I didn't have a garage, I didn't really have the means, and I have never rebuilt a caliper. I figured on a car like this, I just wanted an OEM part, and potentially maybe this one could get frozen in the future, but it was just worth it. That's just what made sense at the time. So another update on the outside of the car is a new windshield, which is super nice because the original one was as old as the car. It was original windshield, and of course we've replaced it with a new windshield gasket as well. I've also replaced the rear glass gasket, nice and matte, nice little satin finish. I have that coated with like a trim coating as well. So super fresh. These were of course flaking off, and then the front was flaking off, and I had replaced it. And then of course I got a new windshield, and then they replaced it again, which is kind of silly, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. So an issue I had in regards to sort of the windshield is the windshield wipers. The motor actually went out where they were just slowly going, and then they eventually just stopped working, and I thought it was the fuse or the relay or something like that, but they were just failing, and I replaced the relay or whatever it was, and it still wasn't working. So once I replaced the motor, they are good to go. All right, so while we're talking about problem areas in the E39, this seems to be the problem area in my car recently. The driver's side window regulator, which honestly, I guess wasn't really that difficult, although it was a royal pain because I didn't have a garage at the time and it was raining, and I ended up having to temporarily hold the window up with a piece of wood. Very ghetto, and I'm a little embarrassed to admit that, but that's just what I had to do before FCP Euro got me the window regulator. So anyways, going on to the back of the car, there really isn't anything significantly different on the outside. Obviously new rear tires as well. AS3s in the 275 stock size. And I don't remember if you guys have seen, I did a dine-in rear sway bar. All right, so you guys can see the dine-in rear sway bar and also the reinforced brackets. They didn't have the black one, so I had to go with the red ones. You know, a little cheesy, but no one will see it. The dine-in sway bar is on the tightest setting, by the way, which the ride is fine. It's perfect. I would definitely recommend that, and that's what Dine-In recommended to me. So I was going to do a full suspension haul, including the front sway bar as well, but I kind of chickened out because I was moving and it was just a lot of money and a lot of time. So I haven't done like a full suspension refresh. I just did the sway bar because I already bought it. Stock exhausts and new badge when I did the paint correction, which is close to 2 years ago. I'm going on about 2 years of ownership here. Some little detail item. We have the typical M plate, but I struggled with finding like the perfect screws. So I bought these screws and I used black nail polish, which was an interesting purchase. And then when I also bought these little washers, which are sort of like a material from Home Depot. I don't really remember. They're like somewhat soft, so you don't want to screw in the screw too tight, but they hold it perfectly. They don't rust, and it doesn't dig into the bracket. So it's about the little things. I think you guys can kind of appreciate that. We're looking good from the back. There isn't really much to say. Man, these wheels just look so good. Of course, the wheels are absolutely not in perfect shape. You know, these are all curbed from previous owners, and the actual finish is okay. There's not really a lot peeling per se, but you know, it's going to be getting worse, you know, as time progresses. So, you know, that's just kind of the way it goes with these cars, as you guys know. We'll look through the gas cap, which is actually pretty amazing. My car does not have pretty much any gas cap rust, and that looks really faded. Not really sure. I've been wiping it or what the heck happened there, but we'll have to hand polish that later at a later date. The rest of this side of the car, pretty good. We've done a trim restoration in the past. And the other thing on the front of the car is I did a full headlight restoration, sanded with 600 grit sandpaper, and then sprayed with 2K clear, 2 coats of that. And they're 96% OEM looking. If you look in certain lights, it's not quite as glossy. There's a tad bit of orange peel, but for literally like $35, the front of the car, I mean, just doing that and the rock chips just totally transform it. Okay, so let's go into the interior. I'll give you a little update as well. We have the old man wood, which is what I call it. We have extended leather, black, obviously. New floor mats, although this one is a little dirty. I've driven it a handful of times. We've got a factory wheel fully restored with the Leatherique treatment, which is a favorite of mine. Just saw Jeff's video, which he kind of highlighted the benefits of the Leatherique system. I did the full system on all the seats and all the leather inside this car. I think I mentioned I have extended leather. Doing something like that is absolutely worth it. It's a lot of time and it's a lot of sweating and a lot of rubbing the seats down. But as you guys can see, hopefully the steering wheel looks pretty much, I'm not going to say brand new, but it looks excellent. It's not greasy. I also do regular Leatherique treatments on the shift knob, which I will show you. Let me get in here. And of course, we've got the Adams thing here with some quick detailer. And I usually used to drive this car very frequently. Not driving it frequently as much, especially because of Corona and all that. So as you guys can see, this is not factory. Well, it is factory, just not for this car. It's the F10 shift knob, illuminated, fully illuminated, obviously. And you just retrofit the little bracket from the car onto here, which is perfect. And I also have the E60 5 Series short shift kit. So it's very short, it's mechanical, and it's proper. Definitely highly recommend it. I also did a clutch and flywheel and rear main seal maybe about a year ago. And between that, this and the short shift kit, it's amazing. I think I had an extra bushing I should have done at the time, but I didn't know any better, and it didn't get done. So there's a little bit of play, but it's not terrible. Got a little Kroger card because obviously we are driving this to the grocery store. Nice grocery getter. Amazing seat position, as you guys know. And let's get a mileage check for my car here. 138,225. Got my pixels replaced from Paul at Fixels, Fixels. Super good update there because I couldn't read pretty much anything. We've got the typical 16:9, and it has the Grom Bluetooth, which is pretty good, but you guys have probably seen the blue bus thing. I would just get the blue bus because the Grom is nice, but it's a little clunky compared to the blue bus. And this is a true flex right here, is 2 working cup holders. I mean, there's no bigger flex in a car like this. We got the seat heater sport DSC. Do have a rear sunshade, as you guys can see. I'm not really sure what else to mention. Obviously, the nice Alcantara headliner. Sunroof works perfectly fine. This was replaced actually prior to my ownership, a new mirror here. And I guess that's about it for the interior of the M5. So let's get out. Don't ask me why there's a mirror here. Man, nothing like opening doors. Oh, you know, this has the little rust is forming right there. So that would be something that needs to be done as well. But since the car has its own little happy place, it's not seeing pretty much any bad weather anymore at all. Got a little sunshade over here, got them down there. As most guys have, rear seats barely been used. I do have these split folds, which works perfectly fine. And of course, this thing flops down. That's a question for you guys. Sometimes if I have to slam on the brakes, I usually don't have to, but every once in a while you get a jackass that cuts in front of you. This flies out, and you know, maybe that's just because I have proper brakes in this car, but it's kind of annoying. I don't know if there's an easy fix for that. Got a little spare oil, and over here is a sunshade. That's actually a tire inflator. I've never needed to use it, but I figure if I ever get a low tire or a tire that is flat, I can at least pump it up temporarily. All right, on to the back, the boot for you guys. Typical toolkit, US. This, man, something like BMW, they would only charge like $50 for a stupid net, but it does look nice in there, and it is nice. You can secure whatever you need. Obviously, that's kind of what it's there for. We've got the M Audio. And if you guys know me, I gripe about this because I don't really think it's that good. But it's better than the factory, so there's that. Got the little CD changer, nothing really crazy there. So I did rear trunk struts. I believe that is it for the outside. I have 20% ceramic tint all around the entire car. And I think that's perfect. I know a lot of guys are like purists and they don't want to do tint, but you know, I drive it enough that it really makes a big difference. It makes the interior much cooler, protects the leather, that kind of thing. So, you know, this looks a little messy, but leather in good shape, new floor mats, new door sills. These, actually I think I got them from Ryan too, so that's kind of nice that you can just throw some in there as well. Nice little old man wood as well. I think that's about it. Let's open up the hood here. Gosh, love closing those doors. Got the little thing here. So you'll have to excuse me, the engine bay is a little dirty and dusty. Definitely needs some attention. We got some nasties back here, and I've been very distracted with the new house and everything like that. So I did do a new badge here, as you guys can see. The old one was a little scraped and kind of funky looking, so you know, I replaced that. There's not really much to say. The cooling system, I'm pretty sure, I can't confirm this for sure, but it appears that a lot of the hoses and parts in regards to the cooling system, including the radiator, appear to be newer. I haven't looked at part numbers and things like that, but anytime we were working inside, I did plugs and coils. You have some parts off. It looked like it was newer. That's just my observation. This might be newer as well because it's not very yellow. Normally they're very yellow. These are very gross. I'd like to take care of those at some point. But there's, you know, only so much time in the day. Obviously, it's always something. What is something I have to do? Oh, these gaskets, these little, whatever they're called, the bolts that hold the oil filter and the power steering fluid. This one's fine, but I'm going to replace them with, so I'm going to replace all four, I think, is kind of the plan here, because this one's too wiggly. So I did engine filters, I did cabin filters, pretty much all the fluids have been flushed in this car. Plugs, coils, I'm not really sure. I'm sure there's a bunch of other things. We bled the brakes, obviously, when we did the front brakes and rotors. And, you know, it's just going to be the details here. You know, it's, you know, scrubbing, cleaning, doing another detail in the interior, the engine bay here, and it'll look a little more proper. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I love sharing this car, and I especially love sharing it with the E39 Source community. You guys are crazy. And you always kind of give me a little more energy to take it to the next level, because sometimes owning cars like these can be a little exhausting, you know, because there's, you know, life has a lot of things to it, and one of these cars is definitely a little bit of a lifestyle, as well, as a lot of you guys know. So I think that's going to wrap it up for my 03 Carbon Black. I love this thing, and I love to share it with you guys. So thanks again, and I'm sure I'll see you next time.